The Matrix wasn't just a sci-fi blockbuster. It was a gamble so audacious it nearly collapsed under its own weight. What audiences saw as a seamless masterpiece was, behind the curtain, a battlefield of broken bones, near firings, and experimental effects that could have ended careers. Actors trained through pain. Studios doubted the vision, and directors hid secrets that would only emerge years later. Today, we're diving into 20 weird facts about The Matrix that expose the chaos behind the code. And wait until you hear the bonus fact. It reveals a hidden truth so personal and profound, even die-hard fans never saw it coming. Let's jack in. Fact number 1. Keanu Reeves hid a spinal injury. Keanu Reeves entered training for The Matrix wearing a neck brace. Just weeks earlier, he'd undergone surgery for a herniated disc. The doctors fused 2 vertebrae in his spine, and every movement risked re-injury. But Warner Bros. Didn't know. If they had, Reeves could have been instantly recast. Instead, he quietly pushed through grueling choreography while concealing his condition. On set, he often held poses with his back parallel to the ground for minutes at a time, his spine screaming in protest. What audiences saw as a flawless performance was, in reality, a man fighting his own body. Every gravity-defying stunt could have been his last. Neo wasn't just the one on screen. Reeves became the one in real life by refusing to give up his role, even at the risk of paralysis. Fact number 2. Will Smith said no to Neo. When the Wachowskis pitched The Matrix to Will Smith, they explained bullet time, using wild storyboards, and experimental concepts. Smith didn't get it. To him, the directors sounded like rambling dreamers. Instead of signing on, he turned them down and made Wild Wild West. Years later, Smith admitted, "I wasn't mature enough as an actor. If I had done it, I would have messed it up." The irony is brutal. The Matrix revolutionized action cinema, while Wild Wild West nearly derailed his career. Smith later confessed he walked away because he thought the Wachowskis were insane. They weren't. They were geniuses waiting for someone brave enough to trust them. The film gave Keanu Reeves his defining role. Smith got mechanical spiders. It wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was a sliding door moment that reshaped movie history. Fact number 3. The Wachowskis started in comic books. Before they were visionary filmmakers, Lana and Lily Wachowski were comic book writers. In 1992, a friend asked them to pitch an original comic. Out of that challenge came the earliest version of The Matrix. They spent 7 years developing it, not as a script, but as sequential art filled with bold panels, layered symbolism, and philosophical questions. Their background in comics shaped everything: the dramatic angles, the freeze-frame action, the stylized compositions that defined The Matrix. When they finally translated the idea to film, they weren't adapting a comic. They were transforming a visual language into motion. This is why The Matrix looks unlike anything before it. It wasn't just cinema. It was a moving graphic novel with philosophy coded into every frame. Fact number 4. Jean Reno almost played Agent Smith. Imagine Agent Smith with a French accent. That almost happened. The Wachowskis originally approached Jean Reno, known for Léon the Professional, to play the villain. But Reno turned it down because he didn't want to leave France for 4 months of shooting in Australia. His refusal changed cinema history. Hugo Weaving stepped in. And instead of a grizzled assassin vibe, audiences got a precise mechanical villain who spoke with chilling detachment. Weaving later said he enjoyed Smith because the character amused me. That amusement translated into something iconic. His delivery, "Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet," is now legendary. If Reno had said those words, the effect would have been entirely different. One man's reluctance to leave Paris gave us one of the most unforgettable villains in film. Fact number 5. Brutal training broke the actors. The training for The Matrix was not just tough, it was punishing. Carrie-Anne Moss fractured her ankle but hid it until filming ended. Reeves endured spinal recovery while training daily. At one point, he developed mysterious foot pain so severe he was placed in a cast. Yet neither actor dared complain. Why? Because Warner Bros. Executives were looking for any reason to shut the production down. Injuries were kept secret, limps were hidden, and bruises were painted over. "We were terrified they'd replace us," Moss later admitted. The Wachowskis fostered a culture of silence. If you broke down, you broke the film. Audiences saw as sleek martial arts choreography was, in reality, the product of battered bodies and stubborn willpower. Trinity and Neo didn't just fight machines. They fought through real pain to bring the film alive. Fact number 6. Bullet time. Almost didn't work. Bullet time wasn't guaranteed magic, it was a gamble. The Wachowskis were pushing technology no one had ever attempted. Hundreds of still cameras had to fire in a precise sequence while software stitched the frames together. If even one element failed, the whole effect collapsed. Knowing the risk, the crew filmed conventional backup shots of Neo dodging bullets on a rooftop just in case. That backup still sits in Warner Bros.' archives. A glimpse into an alternate universe where The Matrix looked like any other action film. But the gamble paid off. When audiences first saw Neo bend backwards, time slowing around him, jaws dropped. It wasn't just an effect. It was the birth of a new cinematic language. Had the technology glitched, the film might have been forgotten. Instead, it became legend. Fact number 7. Keanu's stunt double became John Wick's. Director during filming, Keanu Reeves relied on stunt double Chad Stahelski, who absorbed every detail of the Wachowskis' visual philosophy. Stahelski wasn't just performing flips and kicks. He was studying a style of action that merged martial arts with balletic camera movement. Years later, when Reeves needed a director for John Wick, he turned to Stahelski, the man who had literally stood in his shadow during The Matrix. The result? A franchise that feels like The Matrix reborn for a new generation. The student became the master, as fans like to say. That connection between Neo and Wick wasn't coincidence, it was destiny. What began as a stunt double leaping across wires in 1999 became a filmmaking partnership that continues to define action cinema today. Fact number 8. The Matrix began as a rejected comic concept. Before Hollywood, The Matrix was too weird even for comic publishers. The Wachowskis pitched it as a graphic novel, but editors dismissed it as too philosophical for action, too action-packed for philosophy. For years, the idea sat in limbo. The rejection stung, but it planted a seed. Instead of abandoning the project, the Wachowskis refined it, fusing action, philosophy, and cyberpunk imagery into something unclassifiable. Ironically, the very qualities that made publishers nervous became the film's revolutionary edge. What was too weird for comics became too powerful for cinema to ignore. The Matrix wasn't born in Hollywood's boardrooms, it was born on rejected sketchpads, forged in the margins where big ideas usually die. Sometimes rejection isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of a masterpiece. Fact number 9. Warner Bros. Greenlit it because of a lesbian thriller. Hollywood logic can be bizarre. The Wachowskis' debut film, Bound, was a small-budget neo-noir about two women stealing mob money. It grossed just $7.3 million. Yet somehow, that movie convinced Warner Bros. To gamble $63 million on The Matrix. Why? Because Bound proved the siblings could handle character depth, tension, and visual style on a shoestring. Executives weren't betting on box office numbers. They were betting on potential. And they were right. Out of that unlikely greenlight emerged one of the most influential films ever made. Without Bound, The Matrix might never have been funded. Sometimes the most revolutionary films exist because of strange Hollywood math. Two women against the mob equals the birth of an entire sci-fi universe. Fact number 10. Hugo Weaving found Agent Smith. Amusing. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because this is where the psychology gets fascinating. Hugo Weaving didn't approach Agent Smith with grim seriousness. He found him funny. To Weaving, the character's disgust with humanity, human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet, was amusing in its precision. That detachment gave Smith his terrifying edge. He wasn't raging. He was bemused. He delivered genocidal monologues with the same tone one might use to describe insects. The performance unsettled audiences because it was calm, deliberate, almost playful. Not hate, but amusement. Not chaos, but control. Weaving's laughter beneath the surface created one of cinema's most chilling villains, and it was all born from his quiet enjoyment of Smith's twisted worldview. Fact number 11. Carrie-Anne Moss had never done action before. When Carrie-Anne Moss landed the role of Trinity, she wasn't an action star. She was best known for soap operas and a little-known Canadian TV series ironically titled Matrix. She had never thrown a punch, never done wire work, never ridden a motorcycle. Yet her very first scene in the film, leaping across rooftops and freezing midair, became one of the most copied action moments in cinema. Moss trained relentlessly, even after secretly breaking her ankle. She never told anyone until filming wrapped, afraid she'd be replaced. By the end, she wasn't just believable. She was iconic. Moss transformed from soap actress to one of the most respected female action leads in history. What audiences didn't know was that every kick, every flip, was powered by pain, determination, and a refusal to quit. Fact number 12. The Matrix Code was sushi recipes. That iconic green rain of code, cascading down the screen like alien scripture, wasn't programming at all. It was sushi. Production designer Simon Whiteley revealed the secret years later. He scanned Japanese katakana characters from his wife's sushi cookbooks. That's right. What looked like humanity's digital prison was actually recipes for miso soup and sashimi. It wasn't binary logic. It was raw fish. This hidden detail encapsulates the Wachowskis' brilliance. They hid profound metaphors inside everyday symbols. The sushi code became one of cinema's most recognizable images. It was poetic, absurd, and perfect. Fact number 13. Lawrence Fishburne was cast for his voice. Morpheus wasn't just written as a mentor. He was a prophet. To bring that to life, the Wachowskis needed someone whose voice could make exposition feel like revelation. Enter Lawrence Fishburne. They were captivated not just by his acting, but by his voice in films like Apocalypse Now. Shakespearean trained, Fishburne delivered lines like, "Welcome to the real world," with such conviction that they transcended dialogue and became prophecy. He prepared for the role by reading philosophy and mythology, treating Morpheus's belief in Neo as sacred. That spiritual foundation gave the character his gravitas. Fishburne didn't just play Morpheus. He believed him. When he told Neo, "You are the one," audiences believed too. The power wasn't just in the script. It was in the voice that carried it, echoing like scripture across cinema. Fact number 14. The famous spoon scene was improvised. There is no spoon. The line became a pop culture mantra, but it almost never existed. The Wachowskis realized late in production that they needed a simple way to explain how the Matrix's rules could be bent. So they created a scene with a child bending a spoon. The child actor improvised movements, and the dialogue grew around it. What began as a practical teaching moment for Neo became a philosophical parable. The scene works on multiple levels, as exposition, as Zen wisdom, and as one of the film's most enduring symbols. Audiences repeat the line to this day, often without realizing it was a last-minute addition. Not planned brilliance, but accidental genius. The spoon that wasn't real became the film's most real metaphor. Fact number 15. Neo's apartment number was Orwell's Room 101. Neo's apartment number, 101, wasn't chosen at random. It was a deliberate nod to George Orwell's 1984. In Orwell's story, Room 101 was where prisoners faced their deepest fears. In The Matrix, apartment 101 is where Neo begins to glimpse the terrifying truth, that everything he believes may be a lie. Both references converge on the same theme: reality as punishment, truth as terror. The Wachowskis embedded the reference as a breadcrumb for literary-minded viewers. For most, it was just a number. But for those who recognized it, the meaning was chilling. Room 101 is where identity collapses under control. Neo's 101 is where his identity begins to break free. Not coincidence, but design. A dystopian novel whispered through a cyberpunk lens. Fact number 16. The lobby scene used real explosions. The lobby shootout wasn't CGI trickery, it was real destruction. The Wachowskis demanded practical effects to capture authentic chaos. Real marble columns were blown apart. Real debris rained from the ceiling. Sparks, dust, and smoke filled the set as stunt performers navigated explosions timed down to the second. If choreography faltered, someone could have been crushed or burned alive. The sequence was a deadly ballet, blending martial arts precision with the unpredictability of live pyrotechnics. Audiences saw as hyper-stylized action was, in reality, raw danger unfolding on set. Every falling slab of concrete, every chunk of shrapnel was real. The visceral energy that made the scene iconic came from actual destruction. It wasn't safe, but it was unforgettable. Fact number 17. Joe Pantoliano thought it was a bad movie. Cypher's betrayal remains one of cinema's most gut-wrenching twists. But actor Joe Pantoliano didn't even understand the script. During production, he admitted he thought The Matrix was a bad sci-fi B-movie and even considered walking away. His confusion, however, became part of the performance. Cypher is jaded, disillusioned, and eager to abandon the harsh truth for the comfort of illusion. Pantoliano's own bewilderment mirrored Cypher's longing for the steak dinner over the gritty real world. Sometimes, an actor's detachment creates unexpected authenticity. What audiences read as sinister conviction was, in part, the actor's own doubt bleeding into the role. In the end, the Wachowskis turned skepticism into one of the most believable betrayals in cinema. What Pantoliano saw as trash became treasure. Fact number 18. The Wachowskis made the cast study philosophy. Before filming began, the Wachowskis handed the cast a reading list. Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation, writings on Buddhism, Gnosticism, and mythology. This wasn't pretension. It was preparation. They wanted their actors to understand the questions the film asked about reality and illusion. Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne spent downtime debating philosophy between takes. Lawrence Fishburne approached Morpheus not as an action hero, but as a spiritual guide. Even Hugo Weaving found philosophical grounding for Smith's contempt of humanity. This intellectual immersion bled into the performances. The Matrix didn't just look smart. It felt smart because the actors believed the ideas they were voicing. Fact number 19. The red pill scene was shot in one take. The red pill or blue pill. It's the moment that defines the entire film. But what audiences didn't know was that the scene had to be filmed in a single take. Why? Because the gelatin capsules were melting under the hot studio lights. Lawrence Fishburne held the dissolving pills in his hand while delivering a career-defining monologue. Keanu Reeves had to react with perfect hesitation. The cameraman had to nail a complex move. No mistakes allowed. The pressure electrified the set. The choice between truth and illusion wasn't just on screen. It was real, hanging on one fragile take. That urgency is why the scene carries such weight. It wasn't staged perfection. It was a one-shot gamble, captured forever. The red pill became cultural shorthand for awakening, but it almost melted away before audiences ever saw it. Fact number 20. Warner Brothers hated the film until test screenings. When executives first saw The Matrix, they panicked. The philosophy-heavy dialogue and surreal visuals tested poorly with focus groups. Some called it confusing. Others called it pretentious. Warner Brothers debated shelving the film or demanding massive reshoots. Then came the public test screenings. Young audiences erupted with enthusiasm. They weren't confused. They were electrified. They didn't see pretension. They saw revolution. The generational divide was stark. Older executives didn't get it, but the younger crowd felt it in their bones. The studio had almost buried a classic before it was born. Instead, the audience saved it. Sometimes the people watching the movie understand it better than the ones who wrote the checks. The Matrix was nearly dismissed as nonsense. Instead, it became a cultural touchstone. Bonus fact. The Wachowskis' hidden truth. Here's the secret even hardcore fans didn't know when The Matrix was released. In 1999, the Wachowskis were still presenting as men. Years later, both Lana and Lily Wachowski came out as trans women. Suddenly, the film's themes looked different. The red pill wasn't just about escaping a digital illusion. It symbolized rejecting false identities and embracing truth, no matter the cost. Neo's transformation from Thomas Anderson into The One mirrored the Wachowskis' own journey from hiding to living authentically. What audiences thought was a sci-fi parable about machines was also a coded story of self-discovery. The courage to choose truth over comfort wasn't theoretical. It was personal. They embedded their deepest struggle inside a blockbuster, and audiences connected without realizing why. The Matrix wasn't just about questioning reality. It was about the bravery to become your true self. The Matrix emerged from broken bones, rejected comics, melting props, studio panic, and the hidden truths of its creators. What looked like seamless perfection was, behind the scenes, a desperate fight for survival. Every frame carried the risk of collapse, yet it endured. Like Metropolis decades before it, The Matrix didn't just entertain. It redefined cinema, reshaped culture, and whispered to an entire generation, "Wake up." If these revelations opened your eyes, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and join us for more secrets Hollywood tried to hide. Because in this world of illusions, there's always another layer waiting to be uncovered. Remember, there is no spoon,